Every morning, millions of Americans woke up, turned on the television, and saw him, smiling, cheerful, always bringing the weather with warmth and wit. Al Roker. The man who made mornings a little brighter. But behind that smile was pain. What most people didn't see was this. After the cameras turned off, Al would limp to his dressing room. His knees, swollen, stiff, aching, were barely holding him up. Some days it took everything he had just to walk across the studio floor. He once said, "I'd smile on screen, but by noon my knees were screaming." This wasn't a sprain. This wasn't something you walk off. This was osteoarthritis, chronic, relentless, and creeping into every corner of his life. The man who brought energy to America was slowly running out of it. But Al Roker didn't give up. Instead, he made a decision, a brave one, to face his pain, take back control, and fight for his mobility. Today, we're diving into that story. The surgeries, the setbacks, the steps, literal and emotional, that brought him back to his feet. If you or someone you love knows what it feels like to fear every stair, dread every step, or wonder if your legs will ever feel strong again, this story is for you. Welcome to Elderly Wisdom Chronicles. If healing, hope, and resilience matter to you, stay with us. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support this growing community of strength. When the weatherman couldn't stand the storm anymore, Al Roker wasn't just a TV host. He was the guy who made America smile at 7 a.m. sharp. A voice of comfort during storms. A beacon of positivity during national tragedies. For decades, he stood strong on camera, literally and figuratively. But in private, that strength was fading. The storm within the weatherman. The pain in his knees didn't arrive like a thunderclap. It crept in, slowly. One day it was a little stiffness when walking. Then it became soreness after a long taping. Eventually, it was pain just getting out of bed. Osteoarthritis, the most common form of arthritis among seniors, had taken hold. For Al, it wasn't just uncomfortable. It was relentless. By his early 50s, the signs were impossible to ignore. He had trouble standing during live weather segments. Getting off airplanes became a dreaded routine. He once joked on air, "I've got 2 knees from the 20th century and a career in the 21st. Not a good match." But behind that joke was fear. Fear that his body might be aging faster than his spirit. That the pain might eventually force him to step away from the job he loved. That this bright, energetic man, who once walked through hurricanes to report the weather, might now be grounded by his own joints. But here's where the story shifts. Because Al Roker isn't the kind of man who lets pain have the last word. The man who chose to rebuild, one knee at a time. Al Roker didn't wake up one day and decide to have major surgery. It was a long road, one paved with doubt, denial, and discomfort. For years, he tried to push through the pain. Tried physical therapy. Tried walking it off. Tried to convince himself that this was just part of getting older. "Maybe this is just the new normal," he once said. "Maybe it's supposed to hurt." But deep down, Al knew something had to change, because the truth was harder to ignore with each passing year. He wasn't living anymore. He was enduring. A decision that changed everything. So in 2001, at just 7 years old, he made the first big decision. Total knee replacement. Left knee. A bold move for a man still in the peak of his career. But it wasn't about vanity. It was about mobility. About staying in the game as a father, a husband, a broadcaster, a man. The surgery was tough. The recovery was tougher. Pain, stiffness, sleepless nights. Learning to walk again, carefully, painfully. But with every physical therapy session, with every slow step forward, Al's mindset changed. This wasn't just about my knees, he said. It was about reclaiming control over my body, over my life. And just when things began to stabilize, the other knee began to fail. The right one. Over a decade later, in 2016, Al went through it all again. Another knee, another battle, another comeback. But this time he knew something he didn't know before. He was stronger than the pain. He had rebuilt himself once. He could do it again. And he did. The comeback routine. Healing isn't luck. It's a lifestyle. Al Roker didn't just recover. He transformed. And not with luck, but with routine, commitment, and clarity. After his second knee replacement, Al could have taken it easy. Slowed down. Given himself an excuse to retire. But instead he got up and got to work. Not just for his career, but for himself. The first thing he tackled? Weight. Al lost over 100 pounds. Not with crash diets, not with fads, but with real, steady, consistent change. He cut back on sugar, processed carbs, fried foods, and leaned into what he called grown-up eating. His new plate? Grilled salmon with leafy greens, quinoa and roasted vegetables, blueberries, nuts, and lots of water. Fighting back, body, mind, and plate. He made room for indulgences, but in moderation. As he said, I'm not perfect, but I'm mindful. Next, movement. Gentle at first. A few minutes walking around the block. Then stretching. Then light resistance bands. Little by little, step by step, Al regained trust in his knees. He shared his workouts on social media. Not to show off, but to show what's possible. If I can do it, he said, so can you. But perhaps the most powerful part of his routine wasn't physical. It was mental. He practiced gratitude. He journaled. He meditated. And most of all, he stayed positive, even when things were hard. I don't focus on what I've lost, Al said. I focus on what I'm still able to do, and that list keeps growing. Lessons from Al, simple steps. Every senior can take. Al Roker didn't just get lucky. His recovery wasn't some miracle that came out of nowhere. It was the result of quiet choices, small shifts, moments of discomfort that turned into moments of courage. You see, what he did, you can do too. Maybe not all at once, maybe not perfectly, but little by little, and that's enough. Have you ever thought how just a few pounds of weight might be affecting your knees more than you imagined? Al certainly learned that the hard way. What surprised him, and many doctors confirm this, is that for every pound he lost, it felt like 4 pounds came off his knees. That's not a slogan, that's science. You don't need to drop 50, you just need to start. Maybe by swapping out one soda for a glass of water, or one sugary snack for a few almonds. No need for strict diets or fancy food. Just a gentle return to what's real, what's nourishing, what your body quietly asks for. The quiet power of daily choices. And what about movement? I know, it's the last thing you want to do when your knees ache. But did you know that just moving a little each day can actually soothe the joint instead of hurting it? Al didn't run marathons, he just walked. A few steps here, a stretch there. Sometimes it was walking around the hallway after lunch. Sometimes it was just lifting his foot up while sitting, holding it for a few seconds and then letting it go. Nothing extreme, nothing fancy, just movement. Enough to keep the stiffness from taking root. Then there's what we eat. It's funny, we don't always think of food as medicine, but for Al, food was one of the most powerful tools he had. Instead of greasy takeout, he went for simple meals, a piece of grilled salmon, a bowl of greens, a few blueberries on the side. The kind of food that doesn't fight against your joints, but quietly supports them. A drizzle of olive oil, a sprinkle of turmeric. Small touches that carry big weight over time. Your body knows the difference. You can feel it. And here's something that often gets left out of these stories. The mind. Al didn't just care for his knees, he cared for his mindset. When the pain got loud, he got quiet. Just for a few minutes each day, he'd close his eyes. Breathe in deeply, breathe out even slower. Sometimes he'd say a few words like, "I'm healing," or "I'm still here." Other times he'd just sit in gratitude for the chance to try again. Have you ever sat still and just said thank you to your body? Even when it hurts, even when it feels like it's failing you? Because sometimes the act of noticing, of thanking, of softening, can bring just as much healing as medicine. Simple wisdom for stronger knees. Al had setbacks. Of course he did. But he didn't let them define him, and neither should you. One day maybe the pain will be sharper. One day maybe you won't want to walk at all. That's okay. Healing isn't a straight road. It winds. It pauses. But it continues, if you do. So maybe today is the day you try something different. Not everything. Just one thing. Maybe you reach for water instead of soda. Maybe you stretch your legs before breakfast. Maybe you step outside for one deep breath of fresh air. And maybe, just maybe, you write in a notebook, "I'm doing the best I can." Because that's what Al did. And that's what you can do too. Maybe you see a little of yourself in Al's story. Maybe the way he limped off camera, the way he kept smiling through the pain. Maybe that feels familiar. Or maybe you're just starting to notice those little aches in your knees and wondering what they mean. Wherever you are on this journey, just starting, deep in it, or slowly finding your way out, we're here with you. You're not alone. That's why Elderly Wisdom Chronicles exists. This isn't just a channel, it's a space. A place where healing begins with being seen, and where sharing a story can help someone else take the first step. So if something in this video spoke to you, would you let us know? You don't have to write a paragraph. Sometimes a single number says more than enough. 1. I'm living with knee pain right now. 2. I've started making small changes. 3. I've had a knee replacement and I'm still healing for. I'm just learning and want to take better care of myself. Or, if you'd like, share a line from your story. Something that helped, something you're proud of, something you've overcome. Because your voice might be the one that gives someone else courage today. You're not alone in this journey. And if you believe this kind of gentle storytelling matters, if you want to hear more real stories like this, with truth, hope, and practical wisdom, we'd be honored if you'd support Elderly Wisdom Chronicles by clicking like, subscribing, and sharing this with someone you care about. Because healing doesn't happen in silence, it happens in community. And you, my friend, are part of ours now.